remember?
I don't know. I didn't see you silence it. It won't matter.
It doesn't matter. Hey, listen, it's live. Things happen.
We're on live. We're on live with TikTok.
Yeah, man.
YouTube,
we're on live
Facebook.
TikTok, YouTube. So if my phone rings, you'll know that I'm here and available.
That's right. We're not going to answer it.
No, I'm available, but not really. So I guess that's not true. Anyway, welcome. This is Live Forever Young Radio Live. I am Raleigh. This is Bob.
Hello and good morning, Raleigh.
How are you, bro?
It's really, we can say good morning. So even though the live will be up later as an archive.
Right
now, for people who are watching, it's live. It's morning.
Yes.
Eastern Daylight Time.
Yes.
EDT. Eastern Daylight Time. And it's May on, what is it, like the 17th of May?
18th technically, but listen, 17th, 18th, it's close enough.
18th of May, 2023. And here we are.
We are time stamping it again.
Raleigh's got his coffee.
I got my coffee.
I already had my bulletproof coffee this morning.
Yeah, bulletproof. That's great for the brain. You got some omegas.
I did. I got my mid-chain triglycerides. I got the good fats from the organic butter. I had some cocoa butter. And I had some collagen. I put some Boomer collagen in that too. I put it all in a blender.
Ooh.
Poured my coffee over the top, which I made in a French press.
Oh, Lord.
Because if you have drip coffee that goes through a filter,
yes,
it filters out the good fats that are in the coffee.
Yes.
That are good for your brain.
The oils.
So you want those good fats. And so you pour the coffee in the blender, blend it up. It makes this buttery frappuccino. And it's the jump start for your brain for the day. And it puts you into a state of ketonogenesis, where you're burning fat for fuel.
That's right.
So I had that. And then right after this show, I'm going to take my Boomer products.
Yes.
With my barley, my Gladiator barley, my Boomer Boost.
Right there.
My powdered probiotics.
Yes.
The metabolite probiotic. My vitamin D, which we're going to talk about today. And my omega-3 fatty acids.
Absolutely. I'm actually really happy that you ran through the lineup there, because basically what you just described is complete nutrition, all in one step.
Foundational nutrition.
And when we talk about nutrition, just a quick aside, besides the vitamin D, because it's so important, but one of the things that people tend to do with nutritional supplements is get overwhelmed. You walk into the store, you're going to the vitamin shop, and you got to get this, and you think you need to have this. And you end up with like 40 different bottles that are all about $20 to $25, $30 a piece. And you're spending way too much money on it. And you don't even know if it works, right? So what we did and what Bob is describing is the routine that basically gets you your foundational nutrition, right? Your good fats, your ACE vitamins, A, C, and E, right? Your antioxidants, your specialty nutrients, your amino acids. Minerals, vitamins. Of course, those are the standard. We're talking next level stuff. The stuff I named off is stuff that's not normally in your one-a-days, right? So that's why we developed this. And one of the things that when we developed this, a lot of research put in, without this right here, you could have problems. And that's what we're talking about today, right?
You can take all the other nutrients. You could take 4,000 nutrients. Mm-hmm. Which is about what's in our total health system.
Maybe more.
If you don't have, maybe more. But if you don't have the vitamin D3, you could still be really tired and really sick. That's how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
And today's show can be about vitamin D.
Boom. We're calling it a daily dose of sunshine. Vitamin D deficiency. What's the deal? And seriously, we've done research. There's, what was it, 3 billion people worldwide, approximately, have low vitamin D levels.
Right.
And that's a very large number when you think about it. Yeah. And when you consider how important vitamin D is for your overall health, actually, when you get your vitamin D level checked, they consider that a marker for your overall health.
Right.
That's how important it is. Yeah. Right. And so when there's so many people that are deficient in it, we want to look at, first of all, like why the heck that's happening, right? Why don't we have the vitamin D? So let's talk about that first.
Yeah. So there's two main reasons. One is people are not going into the sunshine as much as they used to. And there's a couple of reasons for it. Mm-hmm. So one is we're no longer an agricultural type of economy. Most people do not work in agriculture, just a few percent.
My grandma used to.
Yeah.
Her 10 siblings, they moved to Michigan directly from Poland onto a farm and worked the land.
Yeah.
Until my grandmother died, she ran a vegetable stand.
Nice.
For real.
That's really great.
Yeah.
It was my first job as a child. When I was 14, it was legal to work on a farm and get paid. And so that was my very first job. Nice. As soon as I turned 14,
I'm on the farm.
I was on the farm, baling hay in the vegetable fields with a hoe, getting the weeds out of the rows of vegetables and getting plenty of sunlight. Okay. And we got paid 70 cents an hour.
You could get a hamburger with that.
You could actually, you could get a burger. You could actually get 2 burgers at a fast food place back then for that price. They were 30 cents a piece.
Well, there you go.
And gasoline was 33 cents a gallon.
So you could get a third of a gallon with the 10 cents left over from the burgers.
Yeah.
Boom. But you didn't have a car, so it didn't matter.
Not until I was 16.
There you go.
So
anyway,
yeah. So
agriculture.
So the people are not working on the farms as much as they used to, and there's also people are worried about getting skin cancer.
Sure. Actually, that's one of the most common forms of cancer is skin cancer.
Yeah. So
it's one of the worst.
So people are avoiding the sun on
use
purpose
sunscreen
or otherwise.
Sunscreen too.
Yeah, you can. And so as a result, we're low in vitamin D because the sunlight interacts in your skin and you create vitamin D. Vitamin D then gets converted into a steroid hormone through a process in your liver and kidneys. And then it's involved in many dozens of metabolic pathways, and including, we'll talk about later, the most important part of is the genetic expression.
Yeah.
It leads to some of the pathways, but also expresses for the creation of certain proteins your body needs.
It's quite interesting, and we'll definitely get in depth into that particular function of vitamin D, we'll call it. I wanted to go over the study that it's funny. Bob and I this morning had a meeting at 8:30 with our staff where we informed them of kind of the newest things that we find. It's almost like a pre-podcast, right? Yeah. So we were on the Zoom call with Steph and Lucy and Jean and Ann and Jim and Matt. And we went over this information about vitamin D. Actually, we were talking about vitamin D. And Bob and I had happened to just read the same study right before we went on, but we didn't know it. And so we were like, let's talk about the study. And so I brought it up and Bob was like, hey, that's funny. I just read that. So here's what we're talking about. Vitamin D deficiency is worldwide, widespread, over 3 billion people. It's particularly prevalent in cancer patients. Now, a new study, actually it's an amalgamation of multiple high-quality studies, is showing that having vitamin D could slash cancer deaths by about 12%, which is quite a decent amount, to be honest with you. 12% of a large number is a very large number. So if we can help with 12% by increasing this little vitamin here with cancer, that's good. So here's how this worked, right? In this study, to investigate the effectiveness of vitamin D3 on cancer mortality in the population and on the survival of cancer patients, researchers considered only studies of the highest quality whose participants had been randomly assigned to the vitamin D3 or placebo. Okay. They found that at a daily low dose of vitamin D at 400 to 4,000 international units or IUs per day was more effective than a larger dose. Because, there's people that get those mega doses like once a month.
Injections.
Yes, the injections, right? Yeah. Of 60,000 to 120,000 IU once per month or less. Okay, so the doctor is a German doctor. Dr. Schottker is his name. In the 4 studies with infrequent higher doses, there was no effect on cancer mortality. However, in contrast, in the summary of the 10 studies where daily dosing was used, researchers determined a statistically significant 12% reduction in cancer mortality.
Yeah, and this is only with 400 to 4,000,
Correct.
right? Which, from what we know, that would raise your vitamin D level to about 40. If you took 4,000,
Approximately.
you would probably have a level of about 40 to 50.
Okay. Right.
If you only took 400, you could still be below the lowest part of the range.
So what is that range? Let's just talk about
20 to 100.
20 to 100.
And
now,
so,
can you take too much vitamin D?
yes, you don't want to start rising up above 100. It's
Okay.
not going to kill you, but it's not necessary. The benefit stops.
Gotcha.
And the benefit stops around 70.
Okay.
And so, but you can rise up to 100, and you won't overtax your liver and kidneys. But we mentioned the liver and kidneys are processing vitamin D
right.
into a steroid hormone. You don't want to have to do that unnecessary work. So we've run up with people that were taking actually 40,000 units a day, which was way too much. Most people never need more than 10,000
a day.
And between 5 and 10,000 is a really good number.
Ours is actually, I just wanted to double check, make sure we're following our own. Ours is 5,000 per serving, and a serving's one soft gel.
Right.
So
you can take one or two.
Yeah.
And depending on if you ever get out in the sun at all, or how big you are, how much you weigh. And
correct.
Like
it's different.
100-pound person versus a 200-pound person. So this study to me probably is very encouraging, very good study. 12%.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a follow-up study where they do 5,000 and 10,000 instead of 400 to 4,000.
Got you, with a higher amount.
I think that 12% will go up more.
Like you said, when we formulate our stuff, we have to look at the recommended daily allowances of things. And just in the last 3 years, they've upped the recommended daily dose of your vitamin D because of stuff like this. Because
of these types of studies.
Exactly.
They haven't raised it enough.
No, not enough. But at least they're doing something.
At least they raised it.
Yeah, and so that lets us know that increased intake up to your threshold of, say, 100 is very good.
Yeah, and probably would improve that 12%.
Even further, right.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. But either way, just we were looking here. The Dr. Schottker, thinks the low regular doses are actually better because the vitamins react with the body to produce a hormone that inhibits cancer growth, right? So I think because you're taking them, it's kind of like something like the more you frequently you use it, the better at practiced you are. It's like if I did a job and I did it every day, I would be much more efficient at it. But if I did a job and only did it once a month, there's some things you got to like, oh, how did I do this last time? I forgot to bring my, like say I'm doing, I don't know, I very infrequently do it now, but say stucco, I got to go do a stucco job. I forgot my trowel. Dang it. But if I had done it every day, it would have been in my car, it would have been efficient. I think it's similar. I know that's a weird talking about labor, but this is a similar thing. Vitamin D is there more consistently, so it can do its job more frequently.
Yep.
And the pathways and the hormones that are created are kind of more practiced, if you will.
Yep. So is there anything else with this study, or should we talk about the signs that you might be deficient?
Well, the last thing that it just says here is regular intake. Their conclusion basically was regular intake at low doses is associated with almost negligible risk, and it's actually more cost effective in the end.
Yeah.
Because it's cheaper to take.
Right.
What is this, $10? What do you sell this for? Like
something like that.
10, $12?
Yeah,
and
very cheap.
Yeah, you got a 30-day supply here. So he's saying that's more cost effective, and it's more better. It's more better. It's more beneficial for your health.
There you go.
Anyway, so this next one, we got another one, right? Where we talk about how vitamin D is actually associated with a reduction in stress levels, perceived stress levels, right? So why would that happen?
Well, I can tell you this: the perceived stress level is what is causing, in many cases, the person's stress level. So if you're going to measure a level, the ultimate way they do it is with hormone analysis.
Okay.
Because when people are under a lot of stress, they tend to secrete a lot more cortisol.
Right.
Cortisol in excessive amounts is going to make you age faster, and a lot of other bad things happen with too much cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you have it at the wrong time of day, then you're going to be tired during the day. You won't be able to sleep at night.
Right.
Cortisol rises and falls naturally in a rhythm, but if you're under a lot of stress, it interrupts the rhythm.
Gotcha.
So and if people have a perception that things are not okay,
right,
that causes a metabolic pathway in the brain and heart to fire.
Gotcha.
Right? The neurons in the heart communicate with the neurons in the amygdala, communicate with the frontal cortex in a circle. And so, and it affects the way your heart beats.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when this gets stuck in the negative and your heart is beating with very little variability, right, this is triggering that second metabolic pathway that results in too much cortisol.
Gotcha.
So what you perceive to be things are not okay, right? Then that leads to the excessive cortisol. Now, what does a lack of vitamin D cause? Things like aching muscles, painful bones, fatigue. Your brain doesn't work as well. You have poor sleep. So guess what? Things are not okay.
Nope.
And so now your brain's going, wow, things really aren't okay.
Yep.
But if you get your vitamin D level up, right, these aches and pains and poor sleep tend to improve, and your brain goes, wow, things are getting better.
Yep.
And so now the metabolic pathway kicks in, you have more heart rate variability, less cortisol,
right,
and in fact, you are getting better.
Mm.
So that's
your body
that's why I think that it's occurring. Now, there could be other reasons as well, but
it makes sense.
That's what I think.
Theoretically.
Yeah. It does.
So in this study, it was talking about, actually here is exactly what Bob was talking about. Acute or chronic stress releases cortisol and another thing called catecholamines. Now this is necessary for the fight or flight response, right? This is that trigger that makes you go, oh, do I stay or do I? But consistent levels of these have a very negative impact on your psychological and physiological health. So that's what this is looking at. And while they were doing the study, right, they took a look at a bunch of different things: the person's lifestyle, their exposure to the sun, the nutrients, vitamins that these people were taking. They also were taking things like food questionnaires, questionnaires on their, age, sex, all that, body mass was taken. So it's actually a whole study of not just levels of vitamin D, but their lifestyle and how it affected it. And long story short, the results have found that increased exposure to sunlight was associated with lower levels of perceived stress. Since sunlight is essential for converting, I'm going to try this one out, 7-dehydrocholesterol to vitamin D, the association between increased sun exposure and low levels of perceived stress is believed to be influenced by vitamin D. Furthermore, sums it up, higher vitamin D intake was also linked to lower levels of perceived stress. So the more of this you have, the less perceived stress you will experience, is what the study shows.
So combine your vitamin D with some inner balance or some havening, and great combination of,
absolutely,
of things to do.
Yeah, and what Bob's talking about, for those who may be just tuning in, havening is a technique that we did if you haven't seen it, a podcast with Hillary Russo, havening expert, and it's a way to kind of help reduce stress and anxiety with the power of touch.
Yep.
That's actually the name of our podcast on it. So check it out, boomerboost.com. And then what you can do is check out another one we did called Tapping for Anxiety. It's a video we have on our YouTube, and there's also podcasts about it on boomerboost.com and Live Forever Young Radio. So those things are ways that you can take a physical tool and use that to help reduce stress and cortisol Inner Balance, like Bob said, is actually an app that you hook to your phone, and it helps you breathe and regulate your heart rate.
Yep.
So-
Using breath and gratitude.
There you go. You took the words up. I was going to say gratitude, not breath, but both are used by breathing and then thinking of what you should be grateful for, right? And those are great things that we've covered in our podcast that'll actually help to reduce the stress without having to do anything but focus. It's good.
Yeah.
But so anyway.
So what is it that might trigger somebody to know, or indicators that they might be low in vitamin D? And we have a list of 14 of them.
Well, I was going to say, we either need to tell them how to get their D levels up or how to know if they're low in vitamin D next. Because we've been talking about all these bad things.
So ultimately, you know you're low if you have a blood test that shows that you're low.
Yes.
Right. Now, you have to ask your doctor for this test, because the vast majority of the time when you go for blood work with your doctor, they don't test your vitamin D level. So you have to ask ahead of time, and they'll add it to the panel.
Yep.
Okay. So now, on the other hand, there are symptoms you can have, such as achy muscles,
right,
painful bones.
That sounds
that would be really low. Fatigue, which we know from our experience with our customers, that fatigue can be, you can have fatigue no matter what else you do if you're low in vitamin D.
Actually, real quick, don't lose your spot, but I want to speak to that. There's a few times, very few times, but a couple times where we've had people that were taking our Boomer Boost, which is actually designed to create energy naturally through the Krebs cycle, right?
Yep.
And they were taking this, and they were taking the Gladiator barley, but they weren't taking the whole system. They were just taking what we call the dynamic combo, which is great, but not when you have low vitamin D. Because the woman that I can think of called in about 3 weeks after and said, I still have real low energy, and I don't know what's going on. And Bob, in his infinite wisdom, said, as she had her vitamin D levels checked. And I'd mentioned to her that she might want to talk to her doctor about that. And so she went to the doctor, mentioned it, got it checked. She was at like a 15,
right?
A 15, under 20.
Yeah.
And so the doctor was like, oh, wow. Yeah, you got to take some. So she started taking them, and she did it daily. The doctor did give her a large amount, I remember, to get her levels up quicker. Yeah. And so she had told me they'd given I think we said it was around 60,000 IUs or something. It was around 62. Yeah. And I was like, okay, good. And she said, though, it was important that he told her to maintain it daily. Yeah. So she ordered these. And then I talked to her, or she wrote a review, actually. And I was reading through our reviews, and she had mentioned, I spoke and got the right products after thinking Boomer Boost wasn't working, talked to the doctor, and now I'm feeling great. So vitamin D, no matter what you're taking, if you don't have it, you might not get the benefit.
Yeah. So really important. Also, your brain health. If you're starting to get brain fog, check your vitamin D first. We talked about sleep. Here's one for you, Raleigh. If your head is getting sweaty, it's an indication of low vitamin D. Also, hair loss can be from low vitamin D. Here's one that is very common, is slow healing wounds. You get a cut on your finger, it seems to be lingering for a couple of weeks. There you go. Right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Here's another one, is dizziness.
Okay.
Dizziness. A lot of times people say, well, I'm feeling dizzy, and they go through all these elaborate tests with the neurologist and this and that, and they never got their vitamin D level checked through what can be months of testing to find out while they're dizzy. Okay. Issues with your heart is a really, really big one. And weight gain, excessive weight. Another is recurring infections. All right, big one. So if you're getting a UTI over and over again, some other type of infection, lung infection, make sure your vitamin D is checked. And reduced cognitive function that is mimicking dementia.
Absolutely. Stephanie's on here, Bob, and she said, great tips, guys. Hey, Steph, thanks for hanging out with us today. Stephanie works with us here at Boomer Products. If you call in, more than likely you will talk to Miss Steph, and she's very knowledgeable, and she's just gaining more knowledge watching the show. So
Yeah. So blood pressure is another big one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, one of the things probably that happened going back into 2020 when the COVID pandemic first started.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
A lot of doctors started doing more intensive blood work.
Yes, they did.
They started checking for vitamin D levels, vitamin C, et cetera, to see if there was any correlations.
Mhm.
And one of the studies found that the people that had COVID, 80% of them were deplete in vitamin D.
Interesting.
80%. So if you showed up to your doctor with COVID, you were sick enough that you need to go to the doctor.
Right.
And even though it's in general, the population, 50% are deplete.
Mm-hmm.
With people with COVID, it was 80.
Okay. So what we're saying is the lack of vitamin D was part of what could have possibly made them more susceptible, because we know vitamin D is extremely helpful for immune function.
Yes, that's right. So there you go. That is especially, the fact that COVID is not completely over with yet here in 2023.
No, I actually know somebody who just ended up getting it like a week or two ago.
And the state of emergency has been lifted and the mask mandates, all that are lifted.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you can't still get it.
Right.
But there's a lot of other illnesses you can get that are related to a depleted immune system.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the immune system, that's responsible for almost everything else, that's an infection, that's a pathogen, that's something that needs to be cleared out of the body. And if it's not functioning right and it gets confused, that's what leads to chronic disease.
Yeah. And there's also a correlation between the time of the year and when people tend to get the most sick. Right? And during the summer months when the sun is higher in the sky. So there's this whole phenomena of where you actually live in the world versus what your vitamin D level is going to be. Because closer to the equator you are, the more the sun is directly overhead. So the sunlight is being filtered by a smaller amount of atmosphere. Because you have a globe that has an atmosphere, but if the sun's coming straight down, it's going through a smaller amount of atmosphere than if it's coming in from the side.
Okay.
Right? And so the farther away you live from the equator, the less benefit from the sun you're getting. And so they say that even people that live in Florida, like we do, which we call the Sunshine State.
Actually, we live in St. Pete, the Sunshine City.
The Sunshine City.
726 days of consecutive sunshine is a world record the city holds.
So even though we live in the sunshine, as the winter comes, right, in Florida, the sun is not directly overhead ever. It's always off a little bit, but in the winter, it's down low in the sky and it's coming through a much wider swath of the atmosphere. Even if you live in Florida and you're out in the sun continuously, in the winter, you're still not making enough vitamin D.
Right.
Because of that phenomenon. They have charts actually that for worldwide at what days and months of the year you can get adequate vitamin D.
Interesting.
Depending on where you live.
Now, does the UV and the cloud cover play a part in that? If it's cloudy that day that you're expecting to get your sun, that could, right? I mean, that
also the clouds do filter the sunlight as well. But the atmosphere, which is up much higher than the clouds, is doing most of the filtering.
Got you. This reminds me of the show we did with Peter Forehand, where we talked about photobiomodulation therapy and about how they, was it the Romans or the Greeks were using lighthouses?
Well, they had light coming through windows, and then they would put filters,
different colors over the light, like red for a different thing, blue for a different malady.
They had the sense that different colors of light were good for different illnesses.
Right. But I think in general they were on the money with just sunlight being good in general. They probably obviously didn't know that it created vitamin D through hormonal exchange. But they were like, all right, we can get them in the light. he's in this dark thing, pull him out of there and throw him in the light. And then people tended to get better. And so they're like, well, there's something to it.
Yeah.
So let's put different colors in front of it. Maybe a different spectrum of light will affect them differently. We had a debate over affect and effect. We couldn't decide how to write it.
So we're not getting into that. So some of the other things that vitamin D helps with is your digestion.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Enlighten me, because
digestion and also your respiratory health, your eyes.
That makes sense
as well. Athletic performance, also your hearing, healthy your pancreas.
Yes, actually, pancreas. That's one of the studies was dealing with that, the pancreatic cancer. Yeah,
we'll talk about that on another show. And so, essentially, vitamin D is doing a lot of different things, but one of the most important things is it's facilitating genetic expression.
Right. Now, this is the part we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most important things that vitamin D does.
So with genetic expression, humans have DNA, this miraculous strand of DNA that has the code for your whole life in regard to molecular basis of life. And it is a kind of a hardwired thing. It's not very active itself. It's wrapped up in a protein sheath, and it sits waiting to offer its instruction from the code in the DNA for proteins to be made primarily.
Right.
So our body makes 100,000 different proteins, give or take. They do multiple different pathways.
Very intricate proteins.
And extremely. And the way that it works is you have to have something hit that protein sheath that's covering the DNA to open up the sheath, to splay open a section so that the RNA can transcribe the code that's in that spot that just got unwrapped.
Like a photocopier.
Photocopier comes out into the cell and calls for amino acids, metabolic enzymes, minerals, and it fastens together these elaborate proteins, which are the basis of our life. It also fastens what are proteins that are called enzymes,
right?
Which are the whole spice of life. Everything that occurs in your body molecularly involves an enzyme of some sort, including the assembly of these proteins from the amino acids. The metabolic enzymes help to create the assembly, and
it's like the mortar for the bricks.
Yes.
Right. You got the bricks, and then the enzymes are the thing that glues them together.
Yeah.
If not, you just have a loose wall. You can.
Right. And so in regard to vitamin D, it's involved in the expression. So expression meaning which part of the genome gets unwrapped for expression.
Yep.
And vitamin D plays a huge role in that activation. 20 to 25% of your whole genome, when it's exposed for copying, it happens from vitamin D. So if you're low in vitamin D, you're likely to have very subpar genetic expression.
Meaning your body would be repaired with errors. Kind of?
Not necessarily, but you're going to be deplete in very important proteins that relate to all of the different things we just mentioned, your heart health, your skin, etc. All required. Right, because they're not being made because the instruction was never released.
So it's like I said, a Xerox copier, right? It's like a copy machine with no ink, or the ink fades out, and they're trying to read it. Like, okay, well, we got to put this protein here and that protein. I can't read the last part.
Can't read it. Right.
So I don't know.
We don't know.
Put that there, or don't put anything.
Or the copy machine is giving a set of instructions for a carpenter how to build the house.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the right kind of lumber. He's only got 2x4s.
Oh, but he needs 2x8s. There's 2x.
He needs beams.
He needs
He needs plywood with the floor.
All right. So
He
you're gonna have a
needs
stick house.
drywall, and he needs nails,
Screws. Incomplete.
You can't, and because the instructions were faded, and so he can't read the whole thing. Plus, what he can read, he's looking around going, somebody better go to Home Depot because I don't have what I need.
More supplies.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Right.
so I like to think about that in that sense because it's a good visual, right? And like we talked about when we first started, you have to have a foundation of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, all those things, so you can build your house on top.
Yeah. The vitamin D is helping with the genetic expression, but you want that expression to result in the completion of the project of making the proteins.
Right. We don't want a half-done house.
Right. And so that's why you need the foundational nutrition system, the total health system, because all of those substrates, all of those building blocks, and the fasteners, which are the enzymes, are available. So it's all laid out. It's like somebody came ahead of time with the blueprints and said, what tools do we need and what materials do we need, and put them on the job site. So when the carpenter arrived, everything was there.
Smooth sailing.
It's the same concept. If you take your Boomer Boost, your barley, your probiotics, and your fatty acids, when vitamin D comes along and says, hey, we're going to splay open this part of the genome, make a copy of it, and now we've got everything we need in terms of those amino acids and enzymes in order to create these proteins that make our life robust and healthy, and as we know, less stressful.
Much less stressful, less dealing with disease. These chronic issues that a lot of them come from nutrient deficiency. It's it's not necessary. And when we talk about the 3 billion people, this is worldwide studies that have been done. And many of these places where the vitamin D level is the lowest is the highest with disease.
Yes.
I mean, it's not coincidental. It's pretty much the marker. Anyway.
And so I think that's basically it. That's the most important aspects of the studies and what we know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple hundred studies that come out every day on vitamin D.
It's true.
So there's no way for us to keep up with every aspect of vitamin D because it gets highly, highly detailed and intricate. But the fact there's so many studies being done shows you how important it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bob, that was a good show. It's been about 40 minutes, a little shorter than normal, but I think it's good. What I want to do is I want to challenge people right now to go check out those other podcasts that we were talking about, right? The Havening one with Hillary, The Real Deal on vitamin D is a show that we did in our first season of Live Forever Young. It wasn't a live one, but it was a pre-recorded one with a lot of really good information. And I want you guys to give us another topic. Write us an email or call us, boomerboost@boomerboost.com. You can email us, or you can leave a comment on one of the videos. We are live every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. We are on Facebook at Boomer Wellness Network. We are on YouTube at Boomers Forever Young. We are also on Facebook under Live Forever Young Radio. So all the shows will stream live on those channels if you prefer YouTube over Facebook. We also do TikTok. Sorry, you're further back there, guys. How's everybody on TikTok? But yes, thank you for the hearts. I see hearts. Thank you. But yes, so we have TikTok too, and that's under my handle. It's at Raleigh with Boomer Products. Again, Raleigh, my name with Boomer Products is what you can search, and you can join us every Tuesday and Thursday.
Yep. Raleigh, it's fair to say that it's easy to go to boomerboost.com, and on the top right are the icons for what we were just talking about. So if you want to watch on Facebook, click it. If you want to watch on YouTube, click it. If you want to watch on TikTok,
click it.
Click
tac toe. It's as easy as click tac toe.
So this way, because they're live and we have a camera on, you can actually see it. Now,
and you can talk to us.
If you want, you can interact. If you want to just listen, later on, the archives, you'll be able to listen if you want to just listen. And we also keep mentioning things that we have on our podcast platform, which is syndicated to 15 different platforms, including
iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple iTunes, anywhere you like to find podcasts, we are there. And you will be able to find our shows. And like Bob was saying, don't hesitate to come on in and ask, right? We've got the chat open here. If someone on TikTok back there we can't read, try to check us out on YouTube or Facebook. And at the same time, looks like my moderator's in there. So Christina can help you.
And if you're watching an archive and you can't actually chat in, call us on the phone.
1-800-861-4609.
Call us on the phone.
We have actual lovely people. Stephanie was in here today. We've got Jean, Lucy, Jim, and Ann all hanging out,
phone,
ready to help you out.
Ready to help you.
So listen, guys,
that's it.
11 a.m. Tuesday, we'll have another show for you. That'll be live. Don't miss the replay. And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Live Forever Young Radio. Right, Bob?
See you next time.
Later, guys. All right.